Welcome to Healthy Relationships for Youth, Session 4, Situating the Self in Diversity. Oftentimes, the focus of attention in our society is on the dominant culture, and specifically offered from the singular perspective of white, Christian, able-bodied, heterosexual Canadians. This means that the great diversity of cultures and ways of being that exist in our society are not proportionally represented in mainstream culture, and sometimes not represented at all. This impacts our ability to have healthy relationships, as the stories and views we are exposed to most often can impact how others perceive us and how we perceive ourselves. The past few sessions of the curriculum have focused primarily on healthy ways of being in relationships by talking about boundaries, communication, and resolving conflict. These aspects of relationships are skills we need to have safe, healthy, and happy relationships full of mutual respect and trust. In order to maintain healthy relationships, we need boundaries, communication, and an understanding of our human rights. Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many, many more. Human rights are rights that all humans hold regardless of race, gender, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Everyone is entitled to these rights, without discrimination. Having this human rights approach is key to having healthy relationships, as it encourages mutual respect, respect for diversity, and self-reflection on how we treat ourselves and others. To think about human rights in our relationships, it's really important we think about the context in which we're having relationships with other people. Recognizing that human rights violations happened and continue to happen in Nova Scotia's past and present helps to think about the power imbalances, barriers, discrimination, and violence that folks are experiencing in their relationships due to sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, classism, and ableism. It is easy to assume that we are not holding any harmful biases, but we can be so immersed in our own experiences in society and the information we've learned that we don't always see the inequities and injustice that exist in our schools and communities. The land we are on, most often called Nova Scotia, is part of Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Unceded means that the land was not freely or consensually given or surrendered to the settler communities that came here from Europe. Today, what is largely referred to as Nova Scotia is land that was stolen. This injustice is rarely talked about in history books, as they were written largely from a settler perspective. Naming these injustices, as well as the other human rights violations that take place in our communities, allow us to work toward a more just and equitable society together. As humans, there is no possible way we can always know or understand the experiences of other people we interact with on a daily basis. Everyone holds varying degrees of power and privilege in different parts of their lives. However, the reality is that some groups experience discrimination and violence in their relationships at higher rates than others. Knowing this, it's important that we recognize and celebrate diversity in our communities and relationships and work to promote inclusion and respect for one another. The HRY program recognizes the rich cultural, ethnic, and racial diversity of Nova Scotia, as well as the other forms of diversity that help form our identities and our society: gender, sexual orientation, ability, class, age, and religion. The activities in this session will support students in discussing, questioning, and experiencing the concept of diversity, as well as thinking about key actions they can do to support human rights in their relationships and community. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great session.